instead of showing how I make up all the harness on each end, I'm just going to make up on one end, and then I'll show you a description of how I laid out the wiring and where everything goes when I'm finished. So this is some black silicon wire. It's rated for high temp, and so it's very flexible, as you can see, but it also won't melt. So I'm not going to have to put any heat protection on these wires. So I have these 3M Scotchlok female disconnect terminals. These are spade terminals. And what I do, first of all, is I strip off about 5/16 of an inch, maybe 3/8 of the wire. This is a 14 gauge wire. So I've wired everything with 14 gauge. Turn it down a little bit. So that the wires don't catch up when you put the spade connector on. I'm doing this for red and black, and I'll explain that later. I basically use two pieces of heat shrink on these two heat shrink wrap to keep them from first of all melting, and second of all to protect you when you're working underneath the machine and it happens to be hot. So I put a smaller piece on first, enough to just to go over the wire, and then I put this spade connector on, this female disconnect, and make sure that it doesn't, the wires don't that the wires don't come out on the back side here when you're putting this on. And then you're also going to want to see on just at the base here, just the wire itself. I use these crimpers. These are Wihas. I don't know exactly how you pronounce that. To hand crimp it. So that's got a hand crimp on it now. So it actually won't move. But just for safety precaution, I do go ahead and solder these connections. But probably it's not necessary, but I want to make sure that they're not going to have a problem down the line. And so to do that, you put the soldering iron on the back side of the connector. This takes a little while. This is quite a bit of mass here to heat up. So you gotta be patient. I'm not. I'm already sticking the wire on here. Obviously, this one's actually already melting. So you can see it melting now right here. And when this gets hot enough, this will draw the solder down inside that joint. There's plenty of the solder there. You don't need to do it anymore. You can see it start to happen at this moment. Still waiting for it to draw down in there. You'll see it just, when it draws down in, it's pretty apparent. Everything changes. There we go. So it's it's soldered right now. Now it's too hot to do anything with at this point, so we're going to let it cool down a little bit. And the way to do it, wet your fingers, touch it, it's still hot. Now, I can't go ahead and do this really because I'm going to heat shrink this, put this heat shrink tubing on it now. So, we've got a little, I forgot who makes this. Seek One. I like this little deal. I've got one on the boat. I've got one here. Has a little shield on the top here so that it contains the heat. First thing I'm going to do is there are two, since I'm doing this, there's two pieces of shrink wrap. I've got this piece of red here. You push it all the way up to the terminal. Just stick it on the, I don't know if you can see it from here. Just stick it inside this The heat shrink is already melting it. Turn it. Make sure you get both sides. This heat shrink wrap has glue inside of it, so it does seal it up really well. So that's really the first piece. You can kind of see that. I covered this part that I just got through soldering. I don't have to wait for it to cool down because I'm going to apply heat to it. This one, I leave a little bit exposed. Let's see, where am I here so you can see. Leave about a 3/8 of an inch, maybe a little bit more. I had it this much exposed before. And when I'm done with this, I'm going to be able to cut the tips off. But at this point, since this is sticking out a little bit farther than I want, I'll go all the way and take a little bit of the extra shrink wrap, cut it off, make sure it's flush, stick it back inside my gun here. You can see it start to move, and flip it over, touch both sides, and here we are. Got a little bit more red showing than I want to, but it's okay. I'll explain later what the red's for. So that's how I do one of these connections, and I make up everything by hand in custom. So just to kind of give you a little look at what I've done so far, I've run these wires in. They're all connecting. I've already connected up the spade, and now I'm getting ready to hook up the pressure stat and the element. I have the other piece for the element, and then I have one grounding wire to go on, and it'll be wired.